7,000 per annum to reach HTC or PTC or HND or HDA, because this government cannot fund it. And despite all the sums of money that have come from the World Bank, the EU, and the money they claim to have recovered from the sale or freezing or other things of the APRC asset. So Bartambadu suddenly realized, oh, hang on, oh, blimey, how am I going to go and explain to Parliament that I didn't follow due process? I set the commission without an audit. I set a commission with enablers and enemies investigating somebody they didn't like. I said the commission has done its findings, but we couldn't follow the white paper with explanation, justification for doing what we had done. We are in trouble, because what Bartambadu is trying to do now, after selling Gambia's assets and materials illegally, because he done that even before the findings of the commission. Pay attention. Bartambadu was auctioning off, selling Gambia's material even before the recommendation from the white paper, even before he went to Parliament to justify his actions. So now he's going to go to Parliament and say to Parliament, hang on, we blamed Yahya Jammeh and his council members for the missing $35 million from Taiwan. And by the way, what built the airport? What started the expansion of the airport? What built GRTS? Was it not the $35 million from Taiwan? Oh, we investigated them against the constitution. So our parliament is going to sit down and say, hang on, Bartambadu, we thought our constitution was supreme. It stated that the Armed Forces Professional Ruling Council should not be investigated between July 1994 and October 1996. Why did you abrogate our constitution? Why did you contravene it? Why did you breach it, Bartambadu? I'm sure he's going to come up with one lispery, one answer laced with nothing but deceit, but lies, but cover up. He's going to try and explain it to Parliament and say, well, he's done this beyond his official powers. What official powers? What hours are official for a president of a republic? There are no official powers for the president of a republic. Even during their holiday, they are carrying out national duty. So if the president of the republic suddenly withdraws or gives away money at 2 a.m., 2 million, to go and buy a CT scanner from Taiwan to put at RVTH, or to extend that block at RVTH to create the children's section of the RVTH, or to do that, the president is working 24 hours. This is why they give the president free accommodation, they give the president free food, they provide them with free transport and free clothing and many other things, because the president basically never rests. Once you're one, you got to serve everyone, including the people you don't like. You got to work every minute. Yes, once you're asleep, I don't know whether the aides are allowed to wake them up. But effectively, if there's an emergency, you got no sleep. Every single thing gets blamed on the president. So, it's beyond. So why did he withdraw that $1 million via Alaji Cisse, who's been exonerated by that white paper? What was the $1 million for? What did he spend it on? They don't know. Oh, we believe the money's been put in the wrong place. What wrong place? Okay, fine. Maybe the money went in the wrong place. But so tell us, during that period, the 600 kilometers of roads that he built, where did that money come from? The first time we've seen tarmac, apart from the Banjul Highway and the airport tarmac, the first tarmac we saw in our cities and towns and villages was brought in by Yahya Jammeh. The first tarmac, A-grade tarmac. North Bank Road is 23 years old today. The road is still solid. I was young when PPP was in power. They built that Fonyi Highway. One rainy season, 2 rainy seasons, potholes galore everywhere, and the gele drivers, bus drivers, have to swing. It's like you're in a carousel or whatever. You're in a go-kart. You're swinging. You're ducking. You're going. 2 summers maximum. That's what the PPP cockle shell, white cockle shell roads were lasting. You cannot come from Khartoum and Gunjur and work in Banjul and go back same day. It was a mission. You cannot come from North Bank region and come to Banjul same day. That Kerawan Bridge was a blessing. The road is still solid. Fonyi Highway in 2009 when I visited Gambia, it was built. Just a few months ago, March, when I went to Gambia, not a single pothole. between Mandinaba and Soma. Not a single pothole. You can hear a pin drop. The road is pitch, absolutely splendid. Brothers and sisters, look, let's cut the crap. Sorry for my language. Let's cut it out. The bullshit needs to stop. We are not prepared to lie down and allow these people to lie to the populace, to deceive people, to swindle funds, build themselves mansions. I saw a Gambia port worker the other day, embezzled 9 million allegedly, built a mansion, massive one. Oh hell, if he tried that yesteryear, he would have been somewhere else. He wouldn't have he wouldn't have imagined. Brothers and sisters, the Commission of Inquiry and its findings, and I can read them for you, some of it. Let me read some of their findings. It's all speculative. They have no evidence. In any legal document, if they accuse you of something, they have to have evidence to go with it. They said they explained some of these things in the document. Well, no, you need to give a summary. You need to tell us, oh, he signed this document. Give us a guideline. If Mohamed Sabali took $10, punishment by the white paper for stealing $10 is a slap on the wrist like Mambre Njai. So Mambre Njai and Alexis and other people were slapped on the wrist. They just embezzled $10. Fine. So Amadou Samba, who did the same thing when Mustafa Njai, tough construction. Pay attention. I'm giving you these analogies and examples so you know that this white paper is nothing but phony. Nothing but a piece of paper that needs to go somewhere no decent human being sits next to. Okay? So Amadou Samba got contracts from APRC government. Mustafa Njai got contracts from APRC government. Amadou Samba was not accused of land grab. Mustafa Njai was accused of land grab. That Brufut Heights or Brufut End and the old Yundum. He was accused of land grab. Mustafa Njai, tough construction, he used to be called, now called Tough Global. Ahmad Samba did the same. They said, oh, he was getting favorable treatment under the APRC government. He was getting the contracts, many contracts. How then did Tough manage to get contracts from the APRC government? If Ahmad Samba, I remember Boto Construction was getting contracts. CSC was getting contracts. How did Ahmad Samba get all the favorable contracts? When I was young, Boto Construction were building roads. Ahmad Samba was building roads. Atepa Kujabi was getting contracts. Mustafa Njai was getting contracts. CSC was getting contracts. How was Ahmad Samba there? So why is Tough not there? Why is Boto Construction? Why is CSC? No, because those people are related to them. They're family members. They will not be named. They will not be named. And I can tell you that now. So Ami Benson was not named. Completely absent from that list. Surata Jana was not named. Completely absent from that list. All their relatives. They weren't in there. They didn't list them. They want to go and amputate Mr. Sabali's spirit. I tell you what, Mr. Sabali is tougher than all of you, because Mr. Sabali will not punish any of you undeservedly. He's an honorable man. He did what he could for the Gambia at a tender age. They didn't even factor in the fact that the guy was young at the time. Look at them in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Behaving like teenagers, frolicking in mud somewhere. Playing chicken. Absolute travesty of justice. Complete abandonment of the simple principles of legality. And this is why anyone that appeals their findings against the Commission of Inquiry is likely going to win. But if they do not get the appeal upheld, they are likely to seek judicial review. Just one person. When it gets to judicial review stage, it only takes one person to initiate it against this Commission of Inquiry or the government of the Gambia, and that entire process is going to collapse. Total meltdown. Absolutely. And if I was in the position of Modu Sabali, Ahmad Samba, and others, I'll take the Gambia government to the cleaners. Gambia government is going to spend the next $10 billion fighting legal cases, because Ahmad Samba is not going to roll down and die. Sabali is already put in a challenge. Many other people put in a challenge. I hope Jammeh's family puts in a challenge. I hope the APRC stands up for Jammeh. And I hope many other people who've been found one thing, but seeing other people who committed the same abnormalities go free. I hope they instigate those legal proceedings against the Commission of Inquiry. So let me look at the white paper. I'll give you the sort of language that these people talk about. And this is supposed to be evidence-based. Let's have a look. I do not want to deceive people or tell people anything that I don't know here. All right? You guys wait. Where is it? The Gambia government white paper on the report of the Commission of Inquiry into the financial activities. I've got a 1,600 paper of the findings of the commission, so I can't read that. But I'm going to read their conclusion on Jammeh's activities. I'll read their conclusions on Sabali's activities, and I'll read their conclusions on Alaji Osman Sise, the Chief of Protocol's conclusions. Just that. Just to give you an idea. I can't read all of it. 93 pages, I think. Yeah, 93 pages. I'll read the relevant provisions. You listen. Introduction. I'm not even going to read that. That's an introduction of who Yahya Jammeh was, what his salary was in 1994, and what he done to Gamtel Nawek, So I had to join a chairperson. Abiosa George, member. By Masen, member. I don't know those people. But for all you know, I wouldn't be surprised if those people are actually. Findings. Former President Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh. In fact, I don't know whether Yahya was spelled correctly. They put one. Guys, please, don't call me. I'm live. Yeah, I'm using my phone to go live. So if you call me messenger, you're just absolutely ruining my evening. Yeah? I appeal. Before you call me, go on my wall and check if I'm live, please. Yeah, Jammeh was in power for 22 years, 6 months. Yeah, surprise, surprise. The best president we had. Let's deal with the numbers. I'm talking about numbers now. If you're getting emotional and sentimental, just step aside. I'm talking about numbers. The best president we had statistically. Yeah? You like it or hate it, that's the truth. If you don't like it, go and bring the figures to counter it. Well, at least Barrow, everyone is confirmed now. Barrow has united Gambia in opposition now. That's confirmed that he's not better than Jammeh. Nowhere near. In fact, I saw a BBC reporter giving Barrow a minus score out of 10. He gave Barrow minus. These were the people who were drumming him up. These were the people who were saying Jammeh must go. Well, Jammeh wasn't supposed to be there forever. If I were Jammeh, after the 2006 elections or 2011, I would have figured out an exit strategy. But then again, maybe he didn't have that opportunity. Maybe it's the people around him, just like the people who surround Barrow now, telling them all sorts of stuff. Who knows? But that's irrespective of what's here. He still continued to develop the country. He still continued up to 2016. He was still inaugurating projects, the OMVG, the Lamenkoto Pasamas, the Fatoto Koina roads, all those bridges now that Barrow is claiming that brought in by the Chinese. They were all Jammeh's projects, Sukuta Jambanjeli, and we're still inaugurating Jammeh's projects 3 years after his departure. Oh, the International Conference Center and the OIC. So in 2022, we'll still be inaugurating Jammeh's projects. How can the nation, a certain section of our nation, dislike that sort of person so much they don't want to see anything? They don't even want to say a good word about him. This is why I don't understand why APRC do not come out and annihilate Barrow. Barrow hasn't spoken one good word about Jammeh. At least Hussein Dabo of the UDP is praising Jammeh where he could. He said he's forgiven Jammeh. He can come back and we say Al-Fatiha and move on. Yeah? Barrow and his cronies are absolutely drumming up the war drums. Warmongers. They're condemning APRC and Jammeh every single day for what he did and didn't do. Let's go down to their conclusion on Jammeh's findings. Where is it? Properties. 281 properties he owned, they said. Former Jammeh's properties can be placed in 7 categories. I don't want to read every single thing. I want to go to the conclusion just to tell you they have absolutely nothing. No substance to prove nothing. Me. People need to stop calling me. Pending claims. Okay, so pending claims. They've already sold these properties. That's what they're talking about here. Even before the findings against Jammeh, they sold his cattle. They sold his vehicles. Well, they gave away some of his vehicles because they didn't sell them. Out of 357 vehicles, they only raised about 50 million. Yeah, if you average it, they sold vehicles for between 5,000 and 10,000. And Jammeh wasn't driving any scrap metal. No, he wasn't driving an old banging, clanging vehicle. These people, the next government that comes in, if they're not careful, they will go to those gallows before Jammeh gets there. I hope, well, we need to get rid of the death sentence, to be honest with you. No one will be sent to the gallows, but they'll face commissions that will send them into those cells that they refuse to renovate, by the way. My party said, Mile 2 will be revamped. There will be prison reforms. The only thing that my party reformed was buying Apple-branded stuff for his office and his home. Apparently he had an Apple Mac, brand spanking new, iPhone, brand spanking new, with everything that Apple made. Bought himself a Range Rover. Bought himself other things, fancy things. A massive mansion. You wait. I want to find the conclusions to what they said Jammeh did. Okay? And what punishment he was levied. Properties with pending claims. Okay? So pending claims. Well, fine. You go and deal with it. $300 million. I can see that. Former president financial dealings and or activities were at all stages facilitated, assisted, or even guided by a number of people. A number of people. One of them was Mustafa Njai. One of them was Ami Bensouda. Yeah? Former president's financial dealings and or activities at all stages were facilitated, assisted, or even guided by a number of people. Who was guiding him legally? Ami Bensouda. Who was guiding him financially in terms of projects, tough projects, and food projects? Mustafa Njai. Yeah? Close associates. Bensouda was one of them. There are allegations that she even had power of attorney, Jammeh's power of attorney. For those of you who are not familiar with legal terms, it simply means she can carry out financial transactions on behalf of Jammeh without Jammeh needing to be there. Okay? That's how much Jammeh trusted this lady. Be careful who you trust. Be careful who you deal with. If money, material, is their motivation, their alpha and the omega, you got to be careful. Okay? So, former president's financial dealings that I've said that, close associates and his advisors, directly or indirectly, through companies in which former president Jammeh had an interest. Ocean Bay is one of them. Is it Ocean Bay or Caribou Beach that was sold? Conveyancer or the conveyancer? Let's do that. The commission's entire findings and the full extent of former president's liabilities and culpability are contained in the full report, particularly in volumes 1 and 2 in respect of the accounts, volume 3 in respect of lands. That's a lot. Let me go to the conclusion. The government accepts the findings of the commission in so far as they relate to former President Jammeh and his wife Zainab Jammeh. The commission understood that the damage former President Jammeh has caused to government institutions, public resources, and state-owned enterprises of such serious nature that the government ought to introduce a motion before the National Assembly to charge or to be brought against former president for theft, economic crimes, and corruption. Parliament. Are you going to go headlong collision with the Constitution of 1997? Our Gambian Parliament. Are you going to do that? Are you going to breach our Constitution? They're going to take the matter to Parliament. So these materials shouldn't have been sold in the first place, Jammeh's materials. Okay? So what else did they say? The commission's export reveal unprecedented level of... Okay. The government accepts the findings of the commission so far as they relate to Jammeh and Zainab. Accordingly, the government accepts the recommendation of the commission that former President Jammeh's properties, including his assets in and outside the Gambia, company shares, and other acquisitions forfeited to the state or confiscated by the state and sold. The proceeds of sale shall be applied to the payment of monies for which former president and his wife and all companies associated with them are found to be liable in the report. The said properties are hereby forfeited to the state. The government also accepts the commission's recommendation that criminal proceedings be instituted against former president for theft, economic crimes, and corruption. So all those crimes, alleged crimes, are covered by the immunity clause impunity, indemnity, whatever you call it. They're covered for Jammeh at least until 2016. First for the Armed Forces Professional Ruling Council between 1994 and 1996. Then from 1996 until 2016, the president is immune for acts or omissions carried out during his tenure. So they want to take it to Parliament. So Parliament can say, let's ignore the 1997 Constitution and prosecute Jammeh. Recommend his prosecution. That's the state. General Solbaji, I'm not interested in General Solbaji. I'll skip. I'll go to where they found... Asad Njah said it's the same. She signed few things. They didn't say she put money anywhere. She signed stuff, women's empowerment, a few other things. She signed social welfare, health. She was chairperson of and vice chairperson of Dr. Alhaji Ajame Foundation for Peace, Operation Save the Children Foundations. They didn't say he took money or she took money, she put it somewhere else. Okay? Let's go. 11 million they want her to pay, or 3 million something. Is that the final figure? 11 million. Let's go to Maudie Sabally. I find the recommendation Sabally are comparing to Usman Sise, who's been venerated. You wait. Mohammed Bassi, nope. I'm not interested in Bassi. Amadou Samba, saw one. That was ridiculous. Mustafa Njai should have been there next to Amadou Samba. Yeah? But those people will not be there. Those people, like they say, they got backers in the government. Nobody's going to touch them. It's just like Kanye, nicknamed Mo Fala. They got backers in the government. The chief of defense staff of the Gambia army is his cousin. Or brother-in-law, whatever. Yeah, but they're related. Nobody's going to touch him. And so far as we've seen so far in the Gambia, it's legal to be illegal when it comes to Yahya Jammeh. Because people hate him because of the guy's background or what he'd done in government to corrupt heads or kicking out their parents or aunts or uncles' government, PPP government. They hated him with passion. Yeah? I'll skip these. I want to find Momo Sabali's one. I'll read what they say. Oh, Alhaji Cisse. Let me read Alhaji Cisse's one first. Mr. Alhaji Cisse is a civil servant. I will not go there. Let me go to the finding. The commission found inter alia that Mr. Alhaji Cisse, among other protocol officers of state, and on the instructions of former President Jammeh, collected cash withdrawals authorized by former President Jammeh. And we know for a fact that Jammeh's signature was not on those authorized documents. They're just making it up. They said Jammeh authorized. Jammeh's signature was only found in one document. Yeah? He authorized by former president from the Central Bank of the Gambia. Mr. Alhaji was responsible for collecting a total of 2,700,000 between July 2014 and July 2015. Okay? The commission also found that the Office of the President established an office for Zainab Jammeh. Accounts were opened at GTB in October. Mr. Alhaji Cisse was a signatory to some of those accounts. 3 accounts were opened, a dollar, and euro account. Mr. Alhaji Cisse was involved in those. Yeah? He made swift transfer. All withdrawals from the accounts were swift transfers by Mr. Alhaji Cisse. All right? Bank accounts, that includes Morocco, the Potomac residents in Maryland, and other individuals. According to the commission, at least $1,700,000 was transferred from public accounts, including over-the-counter cash transfers by various protocol officers for Zainab Jammeh, including Alhaji Cisse. The commission found that accounts were funded by cash deposit mainly by Mr. Alhaji Cisse. The commission concluded that the cash was provided by former President Jammeh from misappropriated public funds. Where? Where did the public funds come from? So you said the funds were withdrawn from Central Bank or the foundation. Who put them there? The cash didn't just turn up and went into that foundation. Where did the cash come from? Did he take them from Gamtel or from Social Security or from NAWIC and put them in there? No proof. Okay? Traveled extensively. They said the commission found that Mr. Alhaji Cisse traveled extensively with both former president and lately Zainab. How ironical. Padiem. He traveled extensively. The irony. What a cheek. Yeah? Let's go. The commission noted with concern that Mr. Alhaji Cisse seemed to have accepted as normal the many errands in which he was sent to execute financial transactions for former President Jammeh under questionable circumstances. Show us the questions, Ami Ben Sudan Surata Jane. Show us the questions that raised doubt that Alaji Sise was taking that money not to put into government business, but to put it in his own pockets, or for Jammeh to put it in his own pockets. You haven't proven it. There's not even an index. There's no appendix diverting us or directing us for these justifications. So it says, the government accepts in part the findings of the commission insofar as they relate to Mr. Alaji Usman Sise. In particular, the government accepts that Mr. Alaji Sise conducted several financial transactions, including the receipt and collection of monies on behalf of former President Jammeh and Zainab Jammeh on their instructions. The government, however, rejects the commission's finding. Hallelujah! Barrow's got a backbone. Once his interest is threatened, Barrow comes out fighting like a wounded tiger. He's got a backbone. Yeah! Gambia's finally got a president. He's going to stand up to the cronies. He's going to stand up the 5 smelly men of the Gambia. He's going to stand up against the mafia that are trying to strangle him, that are trying to wrestle him down to the ground. Barrow's got backbone, finally. Hooray! The government rejects the commission's findings that there is a probable cause for holding that Mr. Alaji Sise aided and abetted former president in the illegal appropriation of public funds for the reasons below. So the reasons Gambia government gave, the duties and functions of the protocol entail all those financial transactions for the president and for the first lady. Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to skip. This is what Gambia government said. His functions include withdrawing money and giving it to Jammeh or to Zainab, or putting them into government activity. Excellent. Excellent. Absolutely brilliant. Now let's find Sabali's one. Yeah? Sabali as the Secretary General is not allowed to approve something that's been feasibly studied, costed, and funded. He cannot do that because Sabali takes no prisoners. Sabali tells them how it is. Sabali investigated them for wrongdoing in the past. So let's get that whip and hit him with it. Vengeful, revenge, vengeance. It's open. It's not even subtle anymore. It's plain. It's plain. It's conspicuous. Where's Sabali's findings? So Mustafa Njai is free. Ami Bensouda is free. Alaji Sise is free. Yeah? Habib Damra is free. Mohamed Sabali. Yeah? He worked. I'll not put a description. The commission found earlier that during his tenure as Secretary General, Mr. Mohamed Sabali was signatory to various public accounts. Yes, that's what the Secretary Generals do. That's what Dauda Fadera did when they came in newly. That's what Kamara did when they came in newly. That's what Habib Drame did, who was accused of flossing Kurang out of the Commission of Inquiry when Kurang raised questions against Habib Drame's sister, Ami Bensouda, who was the lead counsellor at the Commission of Inquiry. Kurang exposed the conflict of interest, that Ami Bensouda should not have been sitting over those proceedings in which she was adversely mentioned. Habib Drame was the Secretary General at the time. They conspired, okay, or connived with the Justice Minister and Bensouda and sacked Kurang out. They forced him out of the commission. So they said, Mohamed Sabali was signatory to a lot of these public funds, some of which were not accounted for. Well, you said he was signatory. Public funds. They were not accounted for. Why are you charging him? You can't find evidence. Why are you charging? You see why, you know what? These people are lucky they're not going to face me in court. Seriously. They were not accounted for. So why are you blaming him for it? This is why they should have audited and then carry out the commission and then prosecuted. That's the natural order of things. On the instructions of former president, you said he was not accounted for. But you said on the instruction of the former president, the commission found that Mohamed Sabali and the former president were jointly and severally liable for the said amounts of money misappropriated by former president. How did he misappropriate them? No appendix, yeah, no direction given to where they've explained that misappropriation, where that money went. Well, during that period, Jammeh built a lot of things, yeah, and those things. Hold on a second. What do you want? Connection. What happened to the Wi-Fi? What happened to the Wi-Fi? The Wi-Fi is on. Why do you want to connect it to something else? Sorry, guys. That's my little daughter. Yeah? So, now, let's go back. I got lost for a minute. So they said the government notes that Mohamed Sabali's many involvements in the financial transactions of former president, which was not part of his official duty. What was not part of his official duty? Signing documents approved by government departments, by the president's office. How do you know? Which are not part of his official duties. What are they? Especially our Secretary General demonstrated, they left the D out, demonstrated the enthusiasm with which he facilitated those transactions. His conduct fell short of a standard of professional conduct expected of the head of the civil service. The enthusiasm with which he demonstrated his willingness to aid and abet Jammeh. How do you measure enthusiasm in law? How do you measure it? How do you measure enthusiasm in law, brothers and sisters? How do you know Mohamed Sabali was doing it enthusiastically? How on earth will you judge enthusiasm? How do you measure it? You have no accounts to prove what you're saying. You said they weren't unaccounted. They weren't accounted for. How do you prove? One, that the money came from the wrong place. Two, the money went into the wrong place. Three, that Jammeh misappropriated it. How? Ladies and gentlemen, come on. These are basics. Let's learn to read. Let's stand up for what is true. This is why I haven't given this commission respect, because any law court, any natural justice or transitional justice or whatever you call it, you cannot use enablers, you cannot use family, you cannot use friends, you cannot use enemies to sit over your case. Doesn't happen anywhere in the world. Epic fail. Judicial review. All it takes Amadou Samba to seek to appeal. If his appeal is not upheld, seek a judicial review, and every other case will be thrown out. This government, you see the 50 million they spent on the Commission of Inquiry, and that's what they told us, by the way. We don't know what else they spent on. 50 million, they said. They gonna end up spending close to 5 billion fighting these legal cases at the High Court or Appeals Court. Okay? One, they didn't follow the process, and when the white paper came, they didn't follow what our constitution said. You need to follow that up with justification of what you've done. Explanation of what you've done. They haven't done that. So the commission says, or the white paper says, the commission said his conduct fell short. The government white paper says the government accepts the commission's recommendation that Mr. Sabali should not serve in any public office again or be appointed director for any state-owned enterprise for at least 10 years. Mohamed Sabali is hereby banned from holding public office for a remainder of his life. Really? You're going to ban him for the remainder of his life? For something that you categorically stated that was not accounted for. They didn't say Mohamed Sabali should pay back 1 billion. Not a single sum was mentioned in Mohamed Sabali's recommendation. Not one butut was mentioned in it. Now I'm looking at it here. Mohamed Sabali is at 216, 217, 218, 219. All about Mohamed Sabali. Not a single penny was mentioned in there, but they banned him for life. I'm getting angry. I am simmering right now. I am sweating and it's cold in here. Enraged. He is also banned from holding any director positions in any state-owned enterprise in the Gambia for 10 years. Both bans are effective from the date of publication of the white paper last Friday. The monies shall be recovered from the assets of former president. Yeah? So what money? So you're gonna look at this. I committed a crime, but 4 days, my brother. I committed a crime, but I worked with Malang before. They're gonna go and sell Malang's properties and recover the money that I took from the country to pay for my crimes. So I commit a crime, they're gonna go and take 4 days property and sell it, and then pay for my crimes from 4 days money. Guilt by association. I'll sell Jammeh's property, and from that money, I'll take the money Mohamed Sabali owed from Jammeh's money. And how much does Mohamed Sabali owe? Not a single penny, not a single figure was quoted here. I'm going to publish this on my page, MrLaminTamba.com on Facebook. You go and look at it. I'm not making these up. These are matters for legal consideration, and I will not lie. I'm looking at the paper now, the white paper. Mahmoud Sabali's single penny was not mentioned in this white paper. But they're going to sell Jammeh's property and pay for Sabali's alleged crimes. Where in the world will you punish an adult male, a sober and reasonable male who's allegedly committed a crime? You punish them by taking sums or material from another person to pay for their crime. Mahmoud Sabali is not Jammeh's brother or sister, even if they were. You don't punish a father from an adult kid's behavior. Even if the kid is not an adult and they committed crime, you don't punish the parents for it, unless the parents have been proven to have been complicit. Part of the plan. They were part of the conspiracy, and you've got evidence of that. So what? Next minute they're going to ban me because I talk about APRC, I talk about Fonyi, I talk about the commission. They're going to ban me, sell Jammeh's cattle, and then pay for my crimes. Look, I'll screenshot this. This is serious. Both bans are effective from the date of publication of this white paper. The money shall be recovered from the assets of former President Jammeh. This is in black and white. Yeah? Sabali, you don't have to worry. So why are they banning him then? Why are they banning him? What for? This is double jeopardy, right? You owe this money, you pay the money, you've still been banned, you've still been punished. But what money anyway does Sabali owe? In the case of Alhaji Ceesay, millions is handled. In the case of Sabali, not a single sum was mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to stay here forever. I'm going to skip the white paper because this, when it goes to court, if our judicial system is independent, as they claim, and we believe that it's not, and I've got reasons to say that, because a judiciary should have been warning the government regarding the detention of Fonyi soldiers they call the junglers. They have been warning about the picking up of Kamfenda, 51 people of Kamfenda, just for insulting each other with UDP people. Judiciary should have warned the government that every other death in the hands of the government has had a commission of inquiry, except Haruna Jatta, except Sirifo Kujabi. For Haruna Jatta and Sirifo Kujabi, they sent their own killers to investigate themselves. They sent the army, Senegalese army, to investigate themselves for killing Haruna Jatta. They said the army should investigate Sirifo Kujabi's murder, which seemed to have been perpetrated by the army or the paramilitary. Lots of evidence been sent in. The judiciary is not sending alarm bells to the justice minister, saying, hang on, justice minister, this immunity clause is serious. Our bar association is not telling the justice minister, this immunity clause has been there since 1996 and it's entrenched. You cannot abrogate the constitution. You cannot contravene our laws. Investigate Jammeh for anything else after 2016. Investigate Yankuba Toure and co. for anything else after 1996, not before 1996. You cannot investigate Jammeh for anything else. But they said, Jammeh and Esa Fall of the TRRC said, murder and crimes against humanity and murder are the only crimes that aren't covered by the immunity clause. That's why they charged Yankuba for murder instead of contempt, because they wanted to keep him. So why are you investigating Babeli Mansa and the junta members for crimes against our economy, alleged crimes against the economy? Why are you investigating them? You are breaking the law to enforce the law, and that's illegal. That's unlawful. Let's move on. The TRRC, the vice chairman of the TRRC, the custodian of all means that were supposed to be deployed to reconcile the nation, to unite us. Adelaide Sosa is her name. She's the vice chair of the TRRC. If you're not familiar with Gambian politics, TRRC simply means Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. And the act was passed in 2017 it was passed by Gambian Parliament. Parliament is right to pass these Commission of Inquiry and TRRC acts or whatever. Parliament is right because Parliament didn't expect the government to break the immunity clause to investigate or to carry out these commissions. Parliament didn't expect that. It's the Justice Minister, Gambia's Justice Minister, who went ahead and broke the constitution willingly, deliberately. So Parliament needs to investigate him. They need to call him and say, hang on, apparently you sold Jammeh's property. You froze APRC's accounts. You done other things. Took their vehicles. Even before you audited. Even before the commission sat. Why did you do that? You completely violated our laws. And punishment for that is imprisonment. If it's treason, murder. Or execution, I would say, not murder. Execution. Parliament needs to ask him. If he dare step in there, there should be another question of the diplomatic passport. Bartamidu is the only justice minister who will jump up and tell the courts, free these people. Nobody does that to the law courts. Again, this is why earlier, about 2 or 3 minutes ago, I questioned the impartiality and the independence of our judiciary. Why would the Attorney General say to the court, free somebody who's been charged? Why? What powers has he got? What laws is he following? What advice is he seeking? Batambi tells people to free people. Does he have powers to do that? No. Once the case is in court, the people who brought it or the aggrieved parties can agree to settle the matter out of court. The government cannot then turn around and say, we charge you for murder. Yes, you committed murder, but we're going to drop the charges. Yeah, you can drop the charges, but that has to follow a proper court system. Not the justice minister turning up and saying, hang on, this is causing us troubles. We can't be bothered with that. Freedom, please. No, doesn't work like that. Yeah? So the TRRC vice chair, Adelaide Sose, was in the United Kingdom, slagging off Funi and Jola, saying we're the problem in the New Gambia. But then again, I don't want to stay here long. I've been here for an hour and a half. And I've discussed the main topic, which is the white paper, and we all know where we stand now. So anyone who was found to have been involved in embezzlement, misconduct, was written to by the commission, hopefully all of them, and they have the chance or had the chance to write to the appeals court to appeal their cases. But this commission of inquiry didn't follow our constitution, didn't follow the law. Yeah? So the legend in 4 day, he can come in. They didn't follow the law. Why should that commission stand? Yeah? Legally, this commission has no legs. 4 day, welcome. Welcome to today's program.
Thank you.
I'll introduce 4 day to you guys. He's a legend, former civil servant, former diplomat. He's still a diplomat because diplomacy is about conduct. It's not about what office you hold.
Yeah. Let me know why I came.
4 days,
Let me tell you politically. I do not come to interfere or to interrupt you.
No. In fact, I wanted to invite people to come and have a say.
This is the best. This is one of the best programs. Yeah. I followed you from start to finish, and there's nothing that I can fault you for.
Yeah.
This is excellent, and I must tell you that I've seen a lot of prospects.
Yeah.
I don't want to call you names now, but what I'm saying is. Yeah. This, in fact, what you're saying today, doing today, is not political. It's about the nation.
Yes.
And what's happening in the Gambia is a national issue. It's not a political issue. Yeah. And it should be a collective responsibility as Gambians to look at this together and find a solution.
Yes.
I've always been saying this. I mean, whatever happened, we don't want to see a failed state.
No.
If Gambia fails, it's going to affect the Gambian people.
Yes.
And so we don't want to see a failed state. This is what APRC is calling for. That is what the ex-president is talking about all the time. This is what the national executive of the APRC are talking about. But this is not about APRC. This is about the Gambia.
Yeah.
What we fail to understand is, in law, if you establish anything of such,
yes,
it becomes a case law.
Yeah, precedent.
And so therefore, people will use it in prosperity.
Yes.
So we must therefore try to establish cases that are just and fair.
Yes.
For every Gambian across the board. I just want to go off and leave you to continue because I think you've done the job. You've done the job. I don't need to come in here.
Yeah.
You've done the job. And I'm taking this opportunity to thank you very much for
No
what
problems. I'm
and
learning from you. I'm
this
learning
is
from
not
you. I'm
political. This
learning
is
from
a
you. When I joined politics newly, you were the guys that were guiding me because I knew
no.
very little about Gambian politics at the time.
Proud of you, definitely. I must say this. I'm really proud of you. I have to give way because I want you to continue,
Yeah,
and then another time I will come in and we share the platform.
yeah,
But this is
absolutely.
brilliant.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
I
God
appreciate
bless
that.
you.
All right.
Thanks, yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, let's come back. Thank you very much, Fode. We've gone back. We're going to TRRC now, which is still going on. Again, investigating the period between 1994 to 1996. Again, investigating Yahya Jammeh from 1996 to 2016. The acts are there. I've shared these numerous times. I've shared them many times on my Facebook wall, on different places. They're written in black and white. I don't make this up. This is what Gambia government is doing today. But again, I said before, if you start off on the wrong foot, you've got to be ridiculously good to catch up and perform and get a result. The president we have today in the Gambia is not only good, you can give him 10 meters ahead and you'll beat him. He knows very little in terms of how an institution works. He lacks the academics of it. He lacks the experience of it. He lacks the drive and the energy, and definitely has no vision. He's devoid of vision, completely devoid. The Gambia president today, if we have any, we have one by title. We have anything but an effective president. And there is no way any of those people who's been found to have been involved would take this matter to court and lose it if they instigate judicial review. Because the people who oversaw this the Commission of Inquiry, the people who are overseeing the TRRC, and look, TRRC, let's come. You see what's going on now? Apparently, Sana Sabal is opened the Hope Foundation in Brikama to look after deportees and other migrants or repatriated people in Brikama, funded or supported by Baba Gale Jallo, the chairman of TRRC. Is that why Sana Sabali's testimony on the first day at TRRC and his second day dramatically changed overnight? On the first day, Jammeh wasn't aware. He took responsibility of 11/11 and everything else, and the people who were shooting in the streets willy-nilly. Sana Sabali took responsibility of all those occurrences, violations of the rule of law. The next day, Sana Sabali came and started undoing his work from the previous day. Now Baba Gale Jal of TRRC, allegedly, because I haven't seen the paper proving that he's the one supporting the Hope Center in Brikama, Combo Brikama, for the migrants and other people who are struggling. Sana Sabali has opened it. So Sana Sabali has cleaned his hands of the Zamzam. His hands, the blood is being cleaned off by Zamzam. He's a clean man. Sana Sabali will not be found wanting in this TRRC. Sana Sabali is related or big friends with Adelaide Sosi. They picked him up from prison when he was discharged or released by the APRC government. He lived there. They facilitated his stay in the country and maybe his departure from the country. Adelaide Sosi, the chairman, who said Fonyi and Jolas are the obstacle to Gambia's reconciliation. And this is the custodian of our means and ways of reconciliation. She is the one that wants Gambia to reconcile. But already she's elbowing Fonyi, she's elbowing the Jolas. On a public platform in the United Kingdom of all places. When I came here newly, white people, the racist ones that is, and I have to be grateful because the majority of white people I met, very nice. I've not come across many cases of racism, certainly not violent ones. They used to say to me, I do not mean to be racist, but black people are not smart. In my own Gambia, the vice chairperson of the TRRC is saying, I don't mean to be racist, but Jolas are the problem to reconciliation. Fonyi people. Only other ethnicities in Fonyi participated in the reconciliation process. Well, Adelaide Sosa, in your TRRC, you have nobody from Fonyi, You have no Jola. That's not the complaint here. I'm just giving you an idea as to how, when you reconcile with people, you pick people that they look up to, they are role models, and put them there, and they do the peace talk. That's how reconciliation works. Reconciliation never works if you bring total strangers to come to and talk people down, like you done to Funi and Jola people in Manchester. Reconciliation never succeeds if you talk people down. Reconciliation happens when you bring both parties or all parties to the table on a clean state, without finger pointing, without finger jabbing, without that deplorable, bigoted, perverted language that you utter to the people. That never happens anywhere else with results coming out of it. That is an abject failure, total failure. It's not going to happen. You are the custodian of the means and ways of reconciling Gambians. And you turn up in the United Kingdom in front of people and uttered that putrid smell, stench, pungent against the people. And those are the people you wanted to reconcile, by the way, with the rest of the country. You turned around and said, these people were the problem. Then this is because if I don't trust you, how am I going to reconcile? If this was about reconciliation, a prominent guy in TRRC should have been Funfoni or Jola, if they were the problem. Forget about that if they weren't the problem, and I don't think they were the problem. The problem of what happened in the last 54 years of post-independence Gambia is the Gambians across all sections, all communities. It's got nothing to do with Fonyi, it's got nothing to do with Jolas. All a cross-section of our communities were involved. But then if you know the Jolas were the problem and Fonyi people were the problem, why didn't you have a prominent Fonyi guy, prominent Jola in there? Because that's how reconciliation works. You bring your representative, I bring my representative, she brings her representative, we sit down and talk, because these are our role models, these are the people who represent us. We talk, we agree, we have something in paper, we move on. If somebody needs to be compensated, they need to be compensated. If we're going to prosecute them, forget about reconciliation. Forget it. You know, she's lucky, because I feel sorry for Gambian women. They're very hardworking. Most of the time, the real breadwinners of our families. Love them. Love our women. If that was a woman, a man said that, like Sidi Sane tried it on me once, I would have shredded that to bits. Completely destroyed that down. Or if it's a man, destroyed him down. Demolished. It would be a demolition job overnight. But Gambian women deserve that 100% and more respect from me. They work so hard under extenuating circumstances, excruciating chores that they carry out on a day-to-day basis. They suffered for far too long in our country. They were deprived, they were discriminated, and they're still being discriminated, although the deprivation was alleviated by Yahya Jammeh. He removed all the discrimination that was in the Gambia against women. Yahya Jammeh instituted, he enacted laws to empower our women and children. He gave them free education to all levels, gave them scholarships, empowered them, gave them top government jobs. Our youngest minister was a lady. Thanks to Yahya Jammeh. The same people turning around and saying, he's a bad man, he's done this, he's raped me. How did he? If that's what a bad man does, I would love there to be a multiplication of bad men in our country. If a man that fights for women, legislates in favor of women, abolishes all the hardship that women go through, educates them for free, empowers them, puts them on that platform globally, if that's what a bad man is comprised of, I would like to transform myself into a bad man. I want to get a multiplication of bad men in our country, the world over. Because that's what bad men do. They work for the society, they transform people's lives. And Yahya Jammeh is worthy of being called a bad man. You can investigate him. It's up to you. Okay? Investigate him. It's up to you. Abrogate the Constitution. Contravene it. Do it. You got a little power today. We don't seem to learn. We don't seem to improve. We don't seem to appreciate each other. I, for one, will put up a stand against this government. I will scratch beneath the surface. I will stand up and be counted. I will stiffen my backbone. I will speak up. I will counter this government in Mason. And unlike them, I speak up when I got paper like this, black and white, right in front of me, and reading it in front of the world. Everyone listening will know this is written in black and white. I don't make things up. This is it. I wanted to talk about diplomatic passport, but I don't have the time. Batambido has returned his. Gambian ministers and possibly the president, who knows, were selling diplomatic passports allegedly. Some people have been arrested. Gambia's justice minister and attorney general, who's supposed to know the law more, was abusing his privileges. He applied for diplomatic passports for his wife, for his mother-in-law, for his sisters, and was it his sister-in-law? He applied for diplomatic passport for those people, and those people do not represent Gambia in any capacity overseas. If you're not going to travel overseas to represent the Gambia, why would you need a diplomatic passport? His justification was that his mom is elderly and on a wheelchair and needed a diplomatic passport to have that privilege to bypass some of the difficulties that pilgrims face in Hajj in Mecca or Mecca. So other people on wheelchairs, other elderly pilgrims cannot have that privilege. He's got that privilege because he's a minister. He felt so ashamed of himself. He was weeping the other day, and he said he was going to return the diplomatic passports. Why are you returning them? Because you're guilty as charged. You feel bad about it. You are greedy. Apparently, he comes from a wealthy family. But if you come from a wealthy family and you're fighting for scraps with the poor, what does that make you? It makes you an absolute creep. The man should resign and go and find another job in the private sector. Himself and the president, who are serving themselves, rather than the public that they have been put in there to serve, need to depart the government business and go and serve in private companies where they can serve themselves and their family. This is about public service. It's about sacrifice. You want to do the best for Gambians. You want to transform the lives like Yahya Jammeh did. You guys cannot even do one thing that Yahya Jammeh's index finger did. The transformation is done to the poor, the countryside, rural areas, and everyone else. You guys haven't done a quarter of it. In 2.5 years, what that man did within 6 months of coming into government as a 29-year-old army lieutenant, you guys haven't done it in 2.5 years, despite the fact that you've had about close to $1 billion in terms of aid and funding from the UN, from EU, from Saudi, from Qatar, from China, from all those places. Where did the funds go? Life is more difficult in the Gambia today than it's ever been. And this, my brothers and sisters, on that bombshell, I'm going to end this Facebook Live. I've been here close to 2 hours. I wanted to discuss the white paper. I'm sure by tomorrow we'll all have a clear conscience. We'll all believe that what this government is engaged in is nothing but mafia business. What this government is engaged in is nothing but jungle justice. What this government is engaged in is nothing but deceiving people, lying to people, serving themselves, cunning the public, and leaving office properly enriched, and people's poverty index drops. Very soon, Gambia will be the poorest inland country in Africa, the poorest country in Africa. That, if we don't change this government quite quickly, that's where we're headed, brothers and sisters. Dark, deep down, deep, dark abyss, that's where we're headed. Rock bottom, and it's not going to change until we get people who want to sacrifice for our country. These people are hustlers. They have a track record of hustling. They have a track record of corruption inside Gambia, outside of Gambia, and nobody has seen a change. The EU said the money they gave to these people within 2 years in government, they didn't give that to Jammeh in 20 years. You compare Jammeh to these people, you're blind, you're deaf, you're dumb, you will not even try. These people with eyes, ears, sense of taste, hearing, every single thing. I don't know if they got 5 common senses. I think they should. They can smell it, they can see it, they can feel it, they can hear it. But I doubt that they're deploying their senses the right way. Well, they are deploying it the right way, serving their families. Individualism, corruption, nepotism, using public funds to engage in such nefarious acts. Today's edition of Facebook Live. And thank you for tuning in. Today's topics will touch on the commissions of inquiry, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, the white paper. But we will start with the white paper first. So in order, We will start with the white paper, the Commission of Inquiry, and then the TRRC. At some point, we will look at the diplomatic passport scandal. And then we'll look at the president's budget compared to what happened before Adama Barrow became president. We'll look at all those things. But before we go further, I pray for those kids that had their initiation and went to Combo Beach or Kololi Beach and drowned, unfortunately. These accidents happen. And the type of environment that we grew up in the Gambia, these things happened when we were kids. They happen now. And unfortunately, going forward, they'll happen. However, what we want to do is to ensure they happen as rarely as possible and the gap between the occurrences as wide as possible. And if possible, again, this raises the questions as to the safety. How do we treat our coastline? Bearing in mind that tourism is our largest source of foreign exchange, possibly second, maybe second largest, in comparison only to the diaspora remittance, or remittances from the diaspora. I think we need to take our coastline very seriously. We need to provide safety mechanisms around our coast, sophisticated one for that matter. I think Gambia government can afford that. Tourism is our strongest industry in terms of foreign exchange in the Gambia. So it was sad, very, very sad to see kids die just like that. 4 or 7 people drowned in one swoop, just like that. People drowned and died. If we had Coast Guard, if we had security around the beach, if parents took some responsibility around the beach, these things could have been avoided. These could have been 4 to 7 people who would turn out to be the nation's best citizens ever. But then accidents happen. What we cannot allow, and I cannot emphasize this, what we cannot allow is the same thing occurring time and time again. But this blame is not on anyone else but the parents of the children or the people who took the children there. I went through the system. Sometimes the parents are not even there. People have been given responsibility to take their children somewhere, which is part of our culture. But when you get to dangerous places like the sea or other places, extra caution had to be put in place, at least at one parent, 2 children per parent. You cannot have 1 or 2 people looking after a large number of kids near the coastline. And sometimes our waves are quite strong around the Atlantic coast. We've got to be extremely careful. I pray for the families of all those affected. It's unfortunate. May the gates of heaven, Jannah, open up for all those little kids that died or all those people who drowned. I don't know the full statistics, but it's quite awful. It's terrible. Now let's come back to the white paper, the government white paper, Gambian government white paper. I want to discuss it in detail. I looked at the white paper, the summary. Yeah? Well, the government white paper is a summary of the entire report of a commission. Those of you who are not familiar with Gambian politics, Gambia governments changed in January 2017. The former government left, a new government came in. One of the promises that the new government made was to uphold the rule of law, to follow the law to the letter, to uphold the constitution, to abide by all the law books in our country. They promised they are going to be fair, they are going to be transparent, and they even claimed that the new Gambia, the new government, the new dispensation they used to call it, would be a breath of fresh air from the previous government that was there. That the new government has had more educated people, intellectuals, elite, and the gap between them and the previous government will be like the gap between the North and the South Pole. There cannot be any confusion as to what government was there if you compared it to the previous government, or what government is there now compared to the previous government. That's what they said. They promised it. They wrote a 12 to 14 point memorandum of understanding. And they were supposed to follow that memorandum of understanding to the letter. Now, one of those promises in that memorandum of understanding is to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate the previous government's financial dealings. It didn't say the former president's financial dealings. They were going to carry out an audit of the entire government to find out what went wrong, and if possible, set up a commission to investigate where some of the stuff that wasn't explained went. And I'm going to take this. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to go chronologically from January 2017, when this government came into power. And everything in law is chronology, is precedent, is observation, is ensuring that you don't become sentimental. You cannot let your emotions have the better of you. You cannot allow your anger and frustration or whatever ulterior motives you harbor to cloud your judgment. You cannot allow the law to be used as a tool to punish people who are the Davids, because at that particular time you're the Goliath, and you've got the power and the means and the tools to punish somebody who's powerless. That doesn't happen anywhere in a democratic state. In a state where the rule of law is followed, there cannot be a David and Goliath before the law. Outside of the law, yes, and this is why people end up at the law courts, because outside of the law, somebody's always trying to outsmart the other. Somebody's always trying to exert their power and influence on the other illegally. So this is what happens outside. For a case or a matter to head to the court or to the commission of inquiries or other places, there must have been something that triggered it. It must have started somewhere. It doesn't go to the law courts for no reason. It goes to the law courts because something has happened and one party or more are aggrieved and they seek redress from our law courts. That's why when people face the law, they're equal. Nobody cares if you are the president. Nobody cares if you are the peasant. Nobody cares if you are the attorney general. Nobody cares if you are an army general. What occurs in a law court when you stand before the justices, the one thing, absolute fundamental, absolute, this is the foundation of natural justice. We are all equal before the law. Forget about your royalty. Forget about your servants. Forget about your subsistence farmer. Forget about your commercial farmer. Forget about your hotelier. When you stand before a law court, all those things do not matter. And the things that affect life in that manner are birth and death. And in our day-to-day governance or running of public services, equality before the law is one of them. Doesn't discriminate. Wasn't supposed to discriminate. So these people said, when they come in, they're going to carry out the internal audit. A wholesale audit of government departments to find out what actually went wrong, because they were accusing the former government of corruption and many other things. But we'll stay with corruption now until we get to TRRC, then we'll go to criminality. So now, before they even set foot in government, before they even audited, let's take this in chronological order, sorry. Let's take it that way. I'm going to take this step by step. Sorry, people are requesting to come in. I'll let people come in at some point. Yeah, please. Give me time to introduce myself so you know what topic we're talking about, and we can share that sequence, and then you can call in. I want people to come in here where they feel they can make a difference to the conversation, and I'm open to anyone calling in from any sector of our society. I'm happy. So now, they came in, they won the election, by the way. The first things they've done, even before they got into government, the first thing they did was obstruct justice. That's what New Gambia did. And this is where it all went wrong. This is where it all went wrong. It started wrongly, wrong footing. And in any competitive sport or academics or anything, you got to be ridiculously good to recover and catch up with the competition if you started on the wrong footing. And this is a fact. 100 meters athletics, in football you go a goal down, you got to play extremely well. Sometimes, most times better than the other team to recover. In athletics, if you start on the wrong foot, you got to be an Usain Bolt to catch up with the competition pact. We know that today's Gambia, the chap that's there, even if he started 4 steps before the other athletes, he's still going to come out last, and that's President Barrow. He's not even a competitor. He's an athlete that you can give 10 meters ahead to start from there and he still come and beat him. That's how bad he is in that office. But let's go back to seriousness. So before we even got into government, they said there will be a breath of fresh air. What did they do? The Gambia Bar Association stood up and said, hell, the Supreme Court didn't sit for 8 months. It's been idle. It's been redundant for 8 months. So we cannot allow an election petition to follow due process. We cannot allow an election petition to be heard at our Supreme Court because the Supreme Court has not been convened for close to 8 months or maybe less. That's what the Gambia Bar Association said. This is supposed to be the beacon of legality, rule of law, democracy. The Gambia Bar Association should have been flying that flag, Gambian flag, high. They obstructed the course of justice. They frustrated the course of justice. They intimidated, threatened the judges that were already allocated even before the impasse. The judges were allocated back in September, October to go to the Gambia and reconvene the Supreme Court and start hearing people's cases. So when the impasse came, it was not a case of just soul searching for which judge is available to fly to the Gambia and hear these matters. No, it wasn't like that at all. People always call me when I'm on live. I think I need to change my phone. Sorry guys, I had an interrupting call coming in. Now, the Bar Association says, hell, Jammeh's petition cannot be heard at court because the Supreme Court didn't sit for months. Oh, really? What is the problem with the Supreme Court sitting for the first time in 8 months? If you had a genuine case, a winnable case, a case with substance, a case of which you believe that the win was clean, why did the Gambia Bar Association put roadblocks in place so that Jammeh's petition couldn't be heard? We saw the threatening letters that were sent to the judges, African Bar Association, telling them to stay away from the Gambia because what's going on cannot be allowed. There was no excuse for that behavior from the Gambia Bar Association. Let's go past that hurdle because I'm going to come. That's the reason why I'm citing these, because the same head of the Gambia Bar Association, Serif Tambedu, the Gambian embassy was closed for a year to 2. I don't know the exact length of time that the embassy has lied there in ruins, closed because of Gambia's problems with Senegal, diplomatic problems. The Gambia embassy was closed for a year or longer. So listen to this, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. The Gambia Supreme Court didn't convene for about 6 months or to 8 months, and the Gambia Bar Association, because of that, they said there cannot be a hearing of the election petition 2016 at the Gambia Supreme Court. However, the Gambian embassy in Dakar, Senegal, which was closed for a year or longer, was fit to be reopened to swear the Gambian president overseas. I hope you're plugging the gaps. So the Supreme Court cannot sit because it wasn't convened for 6 months. The Supreme Court didn't sit for 6 months, 8 months. That's illegal in the eyes of the Gambia Bar Association. What laws they relied their grounds on, only the Gambia Bar Association knows. So for 6 to 8 months, the Gambia Bar Association the Gambia Supreme Court didn't sit. They didn't hear a case. But Gambian embassy in Dakar, which laid there closed for a year or 2, was fit enough to be reopened to swear the Gambia's president overseas. Brothers and sisters, that's the reason I'm saying this. I'll get there very soon, and you'll know why I've gone back in time, so we can go forward in time. Ladies and gentlemen, so we couldn't listen, we couldn't hear the election petition. A few days later, we saw my party, somebody who was trying to usurp power, somebody who has got no institutional discipline, a rank and file, a ragamuffin, jumped up from nowhere, appointed himself the spokesman, dethroned the other spokesman who was appointed to be the spokesman of the coalition. He jumped up and said, Yahya Jammeh ran away with 11 million in the space of 2 weeks. That's my party. The ragamuffin minister, the bravado, the panache, the showmanship. He deposed Halifa Saleh and said Halifa Saleh has been sacked from henceforth. He's appointed himself as a spokesman. Jammeh ran away with 11 million in the space of 2 weeks. He left the coffers empty without an audit, brothers and sisters, without an audit. Why then did they set the Commission of Inquiry without auditing Gambia's departments? This would have saved us a lot of money, because I've looked at the white paper again. I will come to that conclusion in a minute. I've read the white paper, all of it, and as we speak, I've gone almost halfway into the entire findings of the commission. I spent the last 2, 3, 4 nights racing through that bunch of paperwork. I looked at the white paper. Until today, including Gambia government's information minister, who you would think would have been the first person to be served, the total figures of this Commission of Inquiry. The Gambia's information minister was asked on BBC, how much money did Yahya Jammeh steal? He couldn't say anything. He said $300 million. Gambia's total annual budget, he said. Oh yeah? That's what he's told? Yeah. Over what period? He couldn't answer. The Gambia's information minister couldn't tell over what period that $300 million were stolen. And then the reporter further asked him, okay, to simplify this for laymen like me talking to you now, I'm a layman. To simplify this to people, how much did Jammeh steal from the education budget per annum? Give us the figure of money that he took from the education budget. The Gambia's information minister didn't know. He went rambling. He went back to the $300 million figure again. He went back to the figure. Oh, he stole from... So somebody asked you, how orange is an orange? Gambia's information minister. How orange is an orange? He said the orange is blue. So the man wanted to clarify these matters. The journalists wanted to know. Because these journalists, the one that asked Gambia's information minister, is approaching this academically, legally. And that's what you do in any academic piece of work, in any legal piece of work. You have to counterbalance. You have to come up with the net sums. And if you're working out the net sums, the net debt, you'll have to work out how much money was allegedly withdrawn by the former president. They say $300 million over 22 years. You work that out over how many scholarships he gave to Gambian students to go and study overseas. I know for a fact, because I believe in numbers. I'm a science student. I don't do things deliberately. I trust in numbers, and if you run in public services, the numbers are the only way you're going to judge. The numbers are the only way you're going to gauge. The numbers are the only ways you're going to appraise government departments and individuals within the service. Without those numbers, you can forget any argument you have. That argument is headed to one place, and the argument is headed into the dustbin. And I can tell you that. So Jammeh alone, well, through him and the foundation and other scholarships, no one knows exact amount of money that was given for scholarships, whether it was coming from him. 10,000 scholarships he gave, tertiary institutions, a majority of them overseas. And in fact, when he gave that money cash to some people, he gave them a lot more money for their travel, for accommodation, for food, and many other accessories that come with your education overseas. 10,000 scholarships. I studied in the United Kingdom. The first 2 years as an international student, it cost me £10,200 a year. to read my master's degree. £10,200 per annum. And that's just tuition fees. My transport is not included. My stipend was not included. My accommodation was not included. My stationery was not included. So if you work everything out, rent was about what, 5,000-6,000 a year? So that's easily £17,000 a year. I will forget about transport for now. I forget about that because students get a lot of discount on transport in this country. So that's minimum. Although as an international student funding yourself, that could mean the difference between you surviving your course and dropping out. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Now, we gone past that. They were going to audit the government department. They didn't audit the government department. They just jumped in straight. Yeah? Even before they set up the commission of inquiry, which should have come after the audit, because they might have found some things that went missing and they couldn't explain it. There was no paper trail. There was no digital trail. And then they'll set up a commission of inquiry to investigate those. How did they set up that commission of inquiry without auditing? And why did they set up a commission of inquiry to investigate Yahya Jammeh's dealings, financial dealings, between 1994 and 1996, and the AFPRC council members between 1994 and 1996, knowing fully well that they had immunity that covers some of these transactions, financial transactions that happen in the government. Batambedo and Essa Fall, when they had problems with Yankuba Ture, they said the only crimes that were not covered by immunity, crimes against humanity and murder, are exempt from the immunity clause. So why are they taking Jammeh up for economic crimes, supposedly? Supposedly. So murder and crimes against humanity were the only crimes that are not covered under the constitutional immunity of the 1997 Constitution. And that dispute of the 1997 Constitution ushers this conversation nicely into this piece from Foroya, which they covered in 1996, complaining about the immunity clause that exonerates the council members from punishment for anything that their employees did or anything they delegated to their members in the period July 1994 to October 1996. All of that is immune. According to Batambedo and Essa Fall, murder and crimes against humanity are not covered. And one thing I need to remind Batambedo, he's got to be careful with the people he's playing with, because tomorrow Batambedo himself might sit in that commission facing people like me, asking him questions. He said some of the transactions that Jammeh carried out were not official business. Batambedo, for God's sake, once you become a president, in fact a minister, most of the time you do not have a time off. As a president, you're working 24 hours around the clock. There's no time off. Just because Jammeh sent somebody to go and withdraw $1 million doesn't mean he's put that $1 million in his pocket. Who knows whether that money is the one that he gave to the chap he sent to Canada with $70,000 to read his bachelor's degree. The guy that used to report at GRTS, now in Canada, turned into Jammeh's arch nemesis, arch enemy in the end. How do you know that Dabo lady who was reading at Holborn College, paying $10,200 a year, pounds, wasn't given money out of that $1 million withdrawn? How do you know those 10,000 scholarships that were sent to tertiary institutions, largely institutions across the world, Australia, United Kingdom, United States, Germany, other places, did not come from that $1 million withdrawal? My only complaint with Jammeh is there should have been a paper trail. He should have done this formally. But our country, until this day now, as we speak, does not do anything the formal way. We don't do government transactions digitally exclusively. We don't. We still do a lot of government trade from cash to hand, hand to cash. There's cash passing hands between government departments and individuals working for the government. But let's go back again to the immunity clause. I'll read what Foroya wrote, and I'll give you the date that they wrote this caption, and I'll read the Amnesty International's coverage of the immunity clause that gave Jammeh and the 4 other council members impunity, total impunity. They should not have been questioned by any of these commissions, because these commissions are subordinate to our constitution. Our constitution is supreme. But Batambi's argument is, oh, those transactions were not done in accordance with official duties. How do you know? How do you know those transactions were not done in accordance with official duties? But Barrow said, well, the government says in their white paper, that Alhaji Ceesay was just sent on an errand to collect money. He was given an order to do it. It's part of the job of a chief of protocol. Fair enough. Mahmoud Sabali, who was the Secretary General, was given papers for a project that was costed, a project that was funded, for him to sign as his responsibility as a Secretary General, and he passed it. Now, what happens to that money after those signatures were appended cannot be blamed squarely on Mahmoud Sabali or the president. The people who didn't implement that project to the letter or embezzle the funds are the people you need to chase. Where is the proof that they traced that money to Mahmoud Sabali's pad somewhere in Badibu or in Fuladu, or a pad he owns in London or Manchester or New York? And if you read the report, it says, we believe that this is it. We believe that this is it. We are convinced, we have evidence that this is what happened. That's legal position. Again, I'll come to the commission and how it was set up. That's the commission of inquiry. TRRC comes at the end with the diplomatic passport. But now, we're looking at the white paper. And that white paper is only relevant when we're talking about the commission of inquiry. So no audit. They jumped the gun. No audit. The government of the Gambia jumped the gun and set up the commission of inquiry. And they said they were going to investigate Yahya Jammeh's financial dealings. Not a total government audit, but Yahya Jammeh. Because they realized quite quickly after getting into government that their brothers and their own sisters were involved in the financial pillage that happened. Not only in the last 22 years, but that happened in the history of the Gambia. And some of the sums have gone from PPP to APRC and now the Barrow government. Because Barrow government is no longer a coalition. So now, let's go to Foroya, because Foroya is one independent paper, honest, objective. They don't care which government is there as long as it's government business they report it. I'll read their paper in 1996 complaining about the immunity clause, and the immunity clause was passed. So Batambedu has abrogated our constitution. Treason. This man is fighting against our country, brothers and sisters. Batambedu is fighting against our country. That's what he's done. He's taken our country and used it as a weapon to punish his adversaries, the people he didn't like. He's using it as a whip to whoop people's asses, people he didn't like before he came into government. People who has a different background or regional or ethnicity, those are the people that motivate Batambedu's wickedness. His diabolical attitude, his unjustifiable vindictiveness is all down to that man's bitterness towards stuff that could not be controlled by man. This is what Batambedu is doing. He abrogated the constitution to set up the commission of inquiry to investigate matters beyond his jurisdiction. He abrogated the constitution to investigate matters that are beyond his jurisdiction in the TRRC. But we'll come to TRRC later. Let me read this. Sorry, family. Let me read this. Listen to the Foroya newspaper in 1996. Where is it? Where's the document? Okay, this is what Foroya said. Okay? And the date of this Foroya newspaper was Thursday, 25th July 1996. Pay attention. Take note of this. Thursday, 25th July 1996, because I saw some deceitful lawyers saying the indemnity clause only came in 2001. Fine, that's the indemnity clause. This immunity clause has been there and entrenched since 1996 when it was voted for in August of 1996. And the constitution itself was adopted in 1997, Second Republic. So Foroya says, where is it? Give me a second. Let me pull that up. Foyer's document. Death sentence. Book transitional. A review of the draft constitution of the Second Republic. Transitional and consequential provisions. Schedule 2. Foyer states, who is the first president of the Second Republic? Hang on. Indemnity or immunity of AAPRC and its agents. 25th July 1996. Now listen, word for word. This is what the Constitution says. Paragraph 13. No member of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council or any person appointed minister by the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council or other appointees of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council shall be held liable either jointly or severally for any act or omission in the performance of their official duties during the administration of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council. Paragraph 2, the one I read is paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 states, after coming into force of this Constitution, it shall not be lawful for any court or any tribunal to entertain any action or take any decision or make any order or grant any remedy or relief in any proceedings instituted against the government of the Gambia or any person acting under the authority of the government of the Gambia or against any person or persons acting in concert or individually to assist or bring about the change in government which took place on the 22nd day of July 1994. In respect of any act or omission relating to or consequent upon the overthrow of the government in power before the formation of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, the suspension or abrogation of the Constitution of the Gambia 1970, the establishment of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, the establishment of this Constitution, and paragraph 3, for the avoidance of any doubt, they want to emphasize. To avoid any doubt, because there were doubters, there were skeptics, there are deceptors, there are people who are trying to deceive people. For the avoidance of any doubt, it is declared that no action taken or purported to have been taken in the exercise of executive, legislative, or judicial power by the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council or a member thereof, or by any person appointed by the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council in the name of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council shall be questioned in any proceedings whatsoever. Accordingly, it shall not be lawful for any court or tribunal to make any order or grant any remedy or relief in respect of any such act. Paragraph 4, the provisions of subparagraph 3 shall be effect, notwithstanding that any such action is referred to in that subparagraph was not taken in accordance with the procedure prescribed by law. This is July 25th, 1996. Impunity, immunity, whatever you call it, is been accorded to the 5 council members of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, and there's nothing anyone else can do about it until the Constitution is changed, amended. If you do anything about that, you've abrogated the Constitution, and that's treason. Paragraph 5. It shall not be lawful for any court or tribunal to entertain an action instituted in respect of an act or omission against a person acting or omitting to act on the instructions of... That's another time waster calling me. Sorry, that was not part of the script. Somebody's trying to call me. Yeah? I'll repeat paragraph. Listen, guys, I'll go back to paragraph 5. It shall not be lawful for any court or tribunal to entertain an action instituted in respect of an act or omission against a person acting or omitting to act on the instructions or authority of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council or a member thereof, and alleged to be in contravention of any law, whether substantive, before or during administration of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council. So, this is it. And Fourier goes on. Again, this takes us back to PPP to prove that PPP was actually more brutal than APRC. Fourier continued. I'm just going to read that paragraph, one paragraph, to show that Jammeh was actually an upgrade on the PPP when it comes to human rights record. You have to stop calling me constantly, please. I rejected it twice. Can't people get the message? All right. This is why I like going to my Facebook page, because that way no one calls me on Messenger. I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah. Now, Fourier says, after the 1981 suppression of the overthrow of the former government, and an act was introduced in 92 to give immunity to the former government. Listen to this. PPP gave themselves immunity after 1981 carnage. Yeah. They gave themselves immunity and suppressed free speech, freedom, democracy. After the 1981 suppression of overthrow of the former government, an act was introduced in 1982 to give immunity to the former government and its agents, so that people who lost their lives, property, or freedom during the state of emergency would not be able to claim against the government. This is PPP we're talking about. Okay? So now, I'm not going to go back into PPP because I've discussed that numerous times. I've said this so many times. What we face in the Gambia now is punishment of anyone that we don't like. This is what's happening in today's Gambia. We punish people we don't like, not because they've committed any crimes, but because that person doesn't identify with us regionally, ethnically, or when they were in government we didn't get favorable treatment, or we want ministers, or fathers want ministers. I'm trying to interrupt my session constantly. I've rejected it 4 times. He's not getting the message. I'm going to try and log onto my thing. I'm blocking for now so I can continue. So this is PPP. I'll share this article on my Facebook wall, on my Facebook page, Mr. Lamin Tamba, so you can all copy it and save it for posterity. This is the PPP they thought were angels. They are doing things the right way. They were democratic. Yeah, they were clean. And Fourier doesn't take the liberty. Yeah, they don't know royalties. They'll tell it the way it is, and things have to be done in order. And that's what they reported. So now let's go back. I'll come back again to the Amnesty International complaining about the same problem with the immunity that was given to the Armed Forces Professional Ruling Council. And our constitution actually, after that 1996, it gave our president immunity from any acts or omission committed during their tenure. So Yahya Jammeh between 1996 and 2016, for anything he did in government, shouldn't have been investigated by Bartambedo and his cronies. That is another abrogation of the Constitution. So let's come down. Let's move quickly. Fast forward. No audit. They abandoned their coalition plan and they gone and set up the Commission of Inquiry, which kicked off in June 2017. So now listen. They set up the commission. In any law court in this world, you cannot, anywhere in the world, you cannot set up a commission or any legal process to investigate anyone and use people they worked with, people they related with, people they fought against to sit over their case and investigate them. That only happens in Gambia because we're not fighting it. My own party, the APRC party, has highlighted this before, but there should have been a legal challenge. This is actual evidence and apparent bias every single time. The Commission of Inquiry, Surahata Jane, was found wanting for tax evasion in 2011. Ami Bensouda was found wanting for tax evasion in 2011. Ami Bensouda was Jammeh's personal lawyer in many transactions. When George Graham of Social Security came to the Commission of Inquiry, he mentioned that lady's name so many times in transactions involving the former government and the former president. She was the lawyer advising the former president as to what transactions were legal, what transactions were good, and she did the conveyancing on them and authorized them, including the single largest withdrawal for a government department, the Social Security 1 billion loan that went to NAWEC and compensating the Ghanaians. It was been proven. In fact, in the white paper, I didn't see them say Jammeh took that money and put it in his pocket, the Social Security money. It went to the right causes. It went to upgrade NAWEC's electricity supply and supply the country nationwide, rural electrification, buy new generators for NAWIC, upgrade their operations. That's what they did with that money. It didn't go into Jammeh's pocket. I looked at the white paper and I pointed to that 1 billion, which Ami Bensouda was the conveyancer. She was the one that did the legal transactions on behalf of the government to borrow that 1 billion from Social Security. And this is evident. The papers were shared. Ocean Bay, the sale, or Kairaba Avenue, something like that. One of the hotels or two of the hotels, she was involved in it. She did conveyancing on that, all the legal work on that. All those things are evident, brothers and sisters. They're everywhere. How can such a person, conflicted person, an enabler, sit on a case where she can investigate herself and investigate the former client of hers? Where in the world, in any legal system in the world, is that acceptable? That should be abominable everywhere. You cannot allow that to transpire in any natural process of natural justice, not in transitional justice, not in any other form of adjudication or investigation. You cannot allow that to occur. And this is where the commission, all those people who've had adverse findings against them, should challenge the government. And if the courts find against them, should seek a judicial review. A judicial review basically means the courts have to go through the entire process to investigate what went on, whether what went on was in accordance with the rule of law, due process. If it's found that this was enablers or these were enemies investigating each other in any law books, anywhere in the world, those cases will be thrown out. The commission will be told to forego all their actions, reroute, detour, and start all over via people who have no conflict of interest in their investigations against the former president of the Republic of the Gambia, Dr. Yahya Jammeh. They have to redo this. They have to start from scratch. Been run or overseen by people who have absolutely no beef with Yahya Jammeh. People who absolutely had no dealings in favor or against Yahya Jammeh. It has to be people sitting on the pedestal who have absolutely no doubt in terms of their character or their past dealings or their intentions. This commission of inquiry is phony. It's false. It's ridiculous. And that white paper, if you give it to me today, I know where to stick it, because it absolutely has got no legal legs. The foundation is as rickety as the straw that you find in water and attempt to save yourself by it. It absolute baloney, absolute nonsense, complete tomfoolery. You cannot run a government department the way you wish, at your whim and caprice, at your whim and fancy. That is totally unacceptable. Now let's go back. Okay? Let's go back to the constitution of the Commission of Inquiry. Surata Jane, who's been investigated by a panel constituted by the government, and that panel comprises of the former Secretary General Modu Sabali. I'm mentioning his name now because he will become relevant. I'm going to read the relevant sections of the white paper, and you listen to how speculative it is. They never gave evidence. They were speculating that, we believe that Jammeh bought these because of the privileges he had in office. Privileges! It brings me nicely to the diplomatic passports. The Justice Minister said it was one of the privileges extended to him to get diplomatic passports to all his family members. But we'll do the diplomatic passports at the end. I don't want to convolute this. I don't want to conflate it. I don't want to confuse it. We go back to the Commission of Inquiry and why all its findings must be sent to the dustbin. It has to be redone, completely redone. So Mahmoud Sabalo was part of that panel that investigated Ami Bensouda, Ousseynou Dabo, and Surahata Jane, amongst many, many others who evaded or avoided tax or didn't pay tax. Whichever terminology they want to use it, because when they duck tax via loopholes, they call it tax avoidance, which is legal. When they evade it via the wrong route, they call it tax evasion, and that's criminal. But both effectively mean you haven't paid the tax due. That's what Ami Bensouda, Surahata Jane, and others, 13 others, high-profile names. Sheriff Tambedu, the head of the Bar Association, was part of them. You see where the vengeance, the feud is coming from. You see where the anger is coming from. You see where the hunger is coming from. These people are motivated by revenge and nothing more but revenge. Absolutely. Make no mistake about it. No doubt that these people for only coming. They came in hungry, they came in angry, they came in clueless, they came in with fake qualifications, and they call themselves elite. Oh, they experienced, they've done that. So the commission wasn't constituted properly. And when the commission kicked off, they started calling people in. They called people in, and people were consistently mentioning Ami Bensouda, Lawyer Bensouda, all the way. We saw reports of Surata Jane not paying tax. 1.6 million or something like that. Tax evasion. So the chap that sat over that case to investigate that tax evasion, Mamadou Sabali, was Secretary General and signed a few documents which presumably were costed and funded, and those projects were supposed to be implemented by somebody else, not Sabali. They said, oh, he used his influence to sign those transactions. What influence? Secretary General looks over these contracts, but the Secretary General cannot say this study which was feasible, this study which has been funded, I'm not going to sign it because I'm sure if I sign it, they're going to go and embezzle funds. If it was fronted by somebody who's embezzled funds in the past, like Habib Drame, who was sacked under the APR, during the APRC government for embezzlement or whatever, misconduct, whatever he done. By the way, that Habib Drame is Ami Bensouda's brother, because Ami Bensouda is originally Ami Drame. Bensouda is her matrimonial name, her husband's name. Habib Drame is her brother. He wasn't called to the commission at all. If he was sacked under Jammeh for, what do you call it? Inappropriately putting funds or government business where it's supposed to be, how come he was never called to the Commission of Inquiry? How come the other Secretary Generals were not called to the Commission of Inquiry, like Samba? Mr. Samba wasn't called to the Commission of Inquiry. All the other Secretary Generals who didn't come out openly to support UDP or their families after Jammeh's departure were found to have done something wrong, and recommendations were made against them. All former central bank governors who are not supporting UDP or didn't come out drumming for Barrow were found wanting. Barrow said, or Gambia government white paper said, Alhaji Ceesay merely went to withdraw sums on behalf of Jammeh. He didn't do anything wrong because that's part of his job. So Sabali signing contracts as part of his job was wrong. Let's ban the kid for life. Let's amputate his spirit. Let's destroy him. In spite of all the talent that chap has got. Let's decimate his future. Because we're angry that he investigated us when he was in government. Let's deal with him. The harshest sentence, banned for life from running for public office. And you know these people, they said they banned Jammeh for life for running for public office. And then they said, oh, hang on. We needed to go to parliament to get these things done, because we didn't do it properly. The government didn't send a follow-up paper to the white paper to justify why they done what they'd done. Barrow government hasn't followed up the white paper. It was supposed to come immediately after the release of the publication of the white paper to say we banned Sabali because he's done this and this and that. So what was the criteria? This is it. In an academic world, and by the way, I'm not talking because I want to show off academically. I've written 4 dissertations in my life, done research paper. I won awards for research paper at the highest house in the United Kingdom. So I'm not showing off, but I'm telling you this. Any piece of academic work, okay, that Commission of Inquiry findings and that white paper will not pass even at 40%. Because you cannot carry out a research paper, you cannot put a project forward without counterbalancing, without counter-arguments, without supplying the counter-evidence. He's withdrawn 300 million. What did he do with it? Did he bury it under his foundation house in Kanilai? What did he do with the 300? So 22 years he withdrew $300 million. What else did he do in 22 years? What did he implement in 22 years? What did he build in 22 years? How many people were educated in 22 years? By the way, our literacy rate went from 1994 from 15-20% to about 69-70% now in the space of 22 years. You compare that with 432 years before Jammeh came into power. 432 years and our literacy rate was below 20%. Jammeh comes into power in 22 years, the literacy rate went up to 70%, maybe more. Where did he put that money? Why did you think he achieved that? Why do you think we got 5 brand spanking new government hospitals in the country? Why do you think within the space of 2 years there was an airport terminal and the seaport expansion was in progress? Bundunga Highway was constructed, North Bank Highway was being constructed, and all the jinns that stopped North Bank Highway being bridged were banished. You do the work, brothers and sisters. Come on, Gambia, let's do the figures, let's do the numbers. Since that white paper came out, Batambidu could not tell us how much Jammeh withdrew versus how much he spent. Ibrahim Silla couldn't tell us how much Jammeh withdrew versus how much he spent. Ibrahim Sankara, the government mouthpiece, didn't tell us how much money was withdrawn and versus how much money was spent. Ami Bensouda, the lead counsel, or Surata Jana, the chair, couldn't give us a net sum of both withdrawal and expenditure. These people expect this to be an academic piece of work. This is not an academic piece of work. It's a piece of junk. You need to go in the bin. You cannot fool everyone all the time. I don't want to call Abraham Lincoln because I learned that proverb when I was in primary school, just crossing over to high school. You cannot fool the people all the time. That's what the proverb, that's what the cliche basically says. You can fool a certain people. When they came in newly, they were fooling people. They were digging up graves, sharing insensitive material on the media. I don't know how they got away with it with these family members. Fooling people, deceiving people. The coffers were empty. In fact, Central Bank published and said in April 2017, and that was an APRC budget, by the way, they had $75 million reserve. And they had $100 million surplus in their operations department, the Central Bank. Which coffers were empty? Where were they paying salaries? Under Jammeh, there were no salary shortages. But 4 months, 5 months after his departure, there were salary shortages. Some people didn't get their allowances or salaries for up to 7 months. We're seeing strikes, consistently repeated strikes by different departments of Gambia government, civil service, because salaries weren't paid, allowances weren't paid. We've seen the Gambia College, which was the beacon of education before Jammeh brought that university. Gambia College was the beacon, was the flag bearer in terms of education in our country before Jammeh brought the university, which started churning out graduates since 1999. Gambia College is now charging the poor teachers $7,000 per annum.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Say we morning malagan manja. Da dore nikem kana ma ko place em do meno di positionner ko kunene mi yo nikem ko ma to ko bayande ko ujor bare abonya hadise jalo jo sa juwe sey senu mate ko amuslima uyu to jaw yeno bujo mo rebu ora ya subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallahil azim be ñoni ceme kajo yowmal qiyama ujaw jaat le boj aje be ka fangani barajab anu manje kunen jad be ka pese balance le boj aje be ka fangani barajab be mate aregu ni manawra gu meno ba wala aregu fang wanawra gu waje be ka fangani bare kanya a wanawra gu bagi tarega wawuje wanawra gu dal ala to wana fangani barajab bonya na rek fo andum hadith ala la jode abonya sallallahu alaihi wasallam nane emite yone babay kurem ku gaba kan manje kakuma ku sonia te ku temi ku bakut ku koli hote rege sonia ku ma kila mt famene mange di wono sani le famene mange di burok bano san di wono sani de wana mi cila wara nukan ku mo ko mt famene sola di ko no kena nane subhanallahi wa bihamdihi subhanallahil azim nane kalimatani khafifatani thaqilatani fil mizan habibatani inda rahman nane kalimatani khafifatani kurim kuga wakan manje ka soniya ka yente bare na kankan thaqilatani fil mizan kurim kan manje ka powerful ka manje so heavy ka lebie na san kunena ko di balance be ka pesa kulebi fanfan won ko yembe sena na baraja le chahane nane bare na habibatani inda rahman kurim kan manje mete yone e mamman kurim kila fan kurim kan e mange kurim kan e kontane muluko e mamman kurim kila ko no keno kay nane subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallahi alazim yo boñanum ayto mbuje mura munurag buje mura nurag mo ñoni ceme kalimara pore nurag yo noni ceme bagut aje be ka fangani baraja ko je yomal kiyam be manta aje mbereje fa wona wadagum yo jiki yema ko de nyaay jo ngaru position monone wala ko jabe ka fintak nurag yo yoni ceme to to nyatam kana bu jaram ko place to hani bare buje mura ngo nur jik are wate ya fimu yes sumi nurag mo buje mura kalimara pore wate mo je ya soni anurag yo amadi sunata bonya ajal ya ka fintak miragi yo wono wonara je wona kanem to ajal ya ka fintak min sunna rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam rodud badu sunna sola seti ajalo jabe ka fintak ida awa ala firasihi wana kane weno woni je nyambe jole regi nasen se po yamara kila ku sahaba bole mo kakarankete ayatu kursi to janu ngole ngole yo fukara ayatu kursi na yamara ku sahaba banja qul huwa allahu ahad allahu samad betene jebe ban qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak betene jebe ban qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas betene jebe ban mana lake de la lela alokoto de la alante na jojo nu nyana wola mana karang qul huwa qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas na fuute nu nyana wola banja na mose ni lela burom tu na la alalanken qul huwa nyokon qul a'udhu bi rabbil falak nyokon qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas nyokon na fuute nu nyana wola na mose ni lela burom tu bana wona magor na la nyakam mo benya feji na mose ni lela burom tu banjat na fintum ka fefa kola kari rek bismillahi amutu wa ahya mana finto di ka fefa kola kari rek abonya rola ko sunna yola tuzo ala ka finta na finte na anasana bu kanun dorunya yaji masi wetu fukara burum tu pa anandi kasiti kongi anamboka ko kortey babtu anatono roki be sofi setana pol hani penejo le tongone kane tous parce que mtp boni sumala ka masi poy sumala ka sapoy spansi poy ay du kusun ka setana ngolenti kon dorunya roddi sunnati abonya sallallahu alaihi wasallam parce que dine wona san déplacer yolio wona san déplacer yolio so jaja wakati da